So where are we headed now? What are we doing?
We're going to try and get some dinner in a place called the Ute Tree Inn, which is a really ancient little pub in a place called Cauldron around here. So it's a sort of combination of an antique shop and a pub, really old, and get some dinner there.
Cool. All right, so the Ute Tree closed their kitchen a while ago, but they had these pork pies, which is just basically minced pork. Sometimes they got gelatin in it to hold it together. So what Chris just did here is basically cut it in half and put this English mustard on it, which is really spicy because it's got a lot of horseradish. It's just this minced pork and that kind of short crust. You know what they say? At first it's a little dry, but once you get into the pork, it's moist. It's got obviously that porky, meaty flavor, but then you have the kind of chewiness of the dough, and then there's the ridge there, that kind of crumbly part there on the ridge is crusty. It's good. And these things go perfectly with this ale here, Burton Bridge Ale, which is from around here. I don't know if you can see that. And these English ales, they're like room temperature. And people, I think in the States wouldn't like that, but honestly it just makes sense. When you taste it, it wouldn't make sense for this to be a cold drink. The combination of the meat and the dough and the mustard, and then that ale touching the side of your tongues where you taste that bitterness, it's like it's meant for each other. It's perfect. All right, sir, could you tell me how old this pub is?
It originates from 1640, which is about the time of Cromwell, when he was coming through the UK, yeah.
All right. And I noticed you got a lot of antiques here.
They're down to my stepdad, who's been collecting them since he was a little kid. And interestingly, the first thing he collected was this at 6 years old. He was brought up in pubs, and somebody in the pub gave him that, and it started him off. So he's been collecting ever since.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in 1640, this was a pub called the Ute Tree. Has it changed name?
In 1640, it was a pub called the Ute Tree. The Ute Tree, which stands outside, the tree outside, is actually 200 years older than the pub. So the tree was there and they built the pub, and it was just a 2-up, 2-down pub. Well, it was an inn at the time, and then it's just over the years developed, and every generation put something else on it. Yeah.
Okay. Has it been mostly the same families owning it?
Well, our family's been here since 1961, so we've 62-year history here. I think we've probably got the longest history here. But yeah, the previous people, I've got a photo, which I haven't got to hand, but a photo of the landlord who was here in 1900.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. What makes your pub special?
I think because of my stepdad has just got this passion for antiques, and I think the pub is an extension of his passion. I think that antiques are more of a passion than his than the pub was, and it used to be a great attraction to people. And the more quirkier or the most different thing he could get that nobody else had got, he used to go for.
Yeah.
So that's why we've got Queen Victoria's stockings and various other things. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. That's great. It's a good combination. You've got the old rustic pub and then you have just old stuff in it.
Yeah. So my stepdad's collected. He was passionate about clocks and music machines. I'm passionate about motorcycles, so the motorcycles are mine and the mechanical stuff is mine. But yeah, I think it's a great way of collecting things and having a great excuse to do it.
Yeah, you can display them to people every day, right?
Yeah, and you've got an excuse to go and buy things and have quirky stuff. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much.
So you're welcome.
Yeah.
Nice speaking to you.
Cool, you too. Bye. Where are we going, boss?
We're going up to a Bronze Age source about it on Cannock Chase, which is the smallest area of outstanding natural beauty in the UK, I think. And there's a couple of neolithic sites, burial mounds on the chase, and this one's just the nearest one to the car park where we are. So I think there's only 60 other ones like it in the UK. It's not been excavated, so it's a pretty cool spot, and it'd be a good place to watch the sun set, I reckon.
Cool.
Because you can see pretty far out. From the top of the source of barrow you can see a place called the Wrekin, which is an extinct volcano in Shropshire, and on top of that there's a Iron Age hill fort. So we're just going into the woods this way.
Go into the woods into a Bronze Age burial site. Cool.
Yeah, there's so many paranormal stories about Cannock Chase. There's whole books written about them.
Paranormal stories,
Yeah.
stories from this forest.
Yeah, ghosts and werewolves and pigmen and...
Pigmen. I'm a pigman,
I'm a pigman.
so I've been told. Apparently my hotel has ghosts tonight. So we might see some ghosts in this video. Or me crying,
In the corner.
thinking I'm seeing ghosts, or hearing ghosts, or feeling ghosts. I'll fuck a ghost up. Claims of ghosts, pigmen, black-eyed children, and UFOs in these woods. This forest is haunted.
Over there, it's here. It's a perfect place to meditate. It's a source of barrow. Can you see it?
Oh, this little mound right here.
Yeah, the mound.
Okay, yeah, so you wouldn't know otherwise because it
No, you
just
wouldn't.
looks like a hill, but if you stop and take a second, you can see that it's been man-made.
Yeah, and it's got this sort of gully around it.
Yeah, a moat or gully.
Yeah. It's saucer shaped rather than dome shaped. There used to be an obelisk apparently on the top of it.
Oh, what?
An obelisk.
What's
This
an
is the-
obelisk?
You know, like a...
A Torah of some sort.
You know, like Cleopatra's Needle, or
Yeah.
Cleopatra's Needle is not, but it's like an Egyptian style.
Yeah, I gotcha.
And I'm just trying to pick out in the distance there. Oh yeah, there, you see that? That's the Wrekin over there. Can you see that like massive hill?
Yeah, the big hill in the distance.
Yeah, that's in Shropshire, so that's miles and miles and miles away. I don't know exactly how many miles, but that's a different county altogether. And that's an extinct volcano, and on top of that there's an Iron Age hill fort.
Oh wow.
So like, are you aware of the idea of ley lines?
No.
All right. Okay. So ley lines, the idea was invented by this guy that wrote a book called The Old Straight Track. I forget the guy's name, but his basic idea is that in ancient times, man used to navigate around the landscape using these sort of beacon points. And he sort of mapped it out in Herefordshire originally. I think that's where Herefordshire, the Wye Valley, which is where he was originally from, which is like the border of Wales. And so he mapped out where you had churches and burial mounds and like man-made structures that were all visible within an eye line of each other, that man in ancient times used to navigate around, according to him, use navigation points.
Okay.
And then over time that became a bit of a new age concept of the idea of lines of energy linking things up.
So a lot of the hilltops do have like neolithic sites and stones that line up according to like constellations, but they also used it for navigation.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. That's the idea.
Okay.
So
amazing.
I don't know of a specific ley line that goes between here and the Iron Age hill fort on the Wrekin, but it sort of matches his basic concept of
right. It's crazy how people have these theories and ideas, or they use certain things 1,000, 500, 2,000 years ago, and with all of the newest science we have now, he can prove that they weren't incorrect or they weren't very far off at the very least.
Yeah.
You know, people now think that they're incredibly intelligent because they have iPhones and TV, but it's like, you didn't make that. You bought it. You're a consumer. But just because people didn't have the technology that we have today, it doesn't mean that they were stupid, right? In fact, they were probably smarter because they had to think all the time.
And they were integrated with their environment in a way that we aren't. So like we've navigated today, we've done the modern person thing using like we were lost without internet signal for maps. So I suppose the idea of navigating and being integrated with the landscape. So anyone could see, right, well, that's where we're heading for. This is where we are now. That's our next point is over there. So you'd have these routes where people would go.
Yeah. So, you know, us being pathetic modern man, yesterday I got lost driving from London to Birmingham because my phone didn't work.
Yeah.
And then today we didn't have signal for the maps, for GPS.
Yeah.
And we were stressing it a little bit. But, you know, it's just fun, but still, we don't have the skills to look at like a couple hills and be like, oh, that's where we are.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting. It's an interesting book. I mean, maybe if anyone was to read that book, I would say, unless you know the area or are particularly interested in that part of England, it's probably going to be a bit boring. But the last two chapters, which sort of formulate his whole concept of ley lines.
What's the book called?
It's called The Old Straight Track.
The Old Straight Track.
Yeah, it's really well known.
Okay.
It sort of gives you an idea of the last two chapters are worth it. So
cool.
Just to give you this basic idea of ancient man navigating around the landscape using these like pathways that are sort of integrated into the landscape.
Yeah, you use what you have access to.
Yeah.
Right?
He was even talking about things like there's lots of like the main road near to my house is called Beaconside, and there's Beacon Hill, and the idea of beacons on top of these hills that would have like a fire to guide people.
Okay.
And he even suggested that a lot of times you get these mounds and tumuli that have like a moat around them, and his idea was that the water in the moat was there to reflect the beacon to make it stronger. And
oh wow!
So they even thought of it in that way. So
yeah, they definitely weren't dumb. They used what they had, and you know, without their knowledge, we wouldn't be where we are today. It was a part of our history.
Yeah, and it's still part of our like. So one of the things that he goes into in there is the idea of names. So like you'll have a series of mounds, tumuli, Neolithic sites, stone circles, standing stones, churches, which are always built on ancient spots as well.
Right.
And they'll all have similar names.
Right.
So that would be part of the same track.
Okay.
And they were sometimes named after maybe what would be traded up and down them. So there's certain names that go back to Salt. I think that's one that I remember, because there's a village called Salt near Stafford, and so yeah, you'd be able, the reason for the track would be encapsulated in the place names that were on it. Yeah, that's awesome. It's a good sunset as well. It's just showing it's behind that fucking tree.
Yeah, the tree's kind of in the way. We've got this good sunset here. Capture it. I mean, that shot with the tree's kind of cool like that too.
Yeah.
So literally anything could be buried there from the Bronze Age, which was...
Yeah. It's been dated to Bronze Age, I know that because it says that in the archaeology book, but they've not excavated.
What do you think's down there?
See, I've had different impressions when I've been up here meditating. I think there was the one time, and it might have been due to exhaustion actually, because I came up here during lockdown. I walked here from my house. It's a long walk, and I did it with a weighted vest because I was pissed off that the gyms were all closed and I wasn't getting any exercise. And at that point I hadn't got any exercise kit either. I had not got any weights or dumbbells or anything. All I had was this stupid weighted vest. So I walked up here with a weighted vest, meditated on this hill for a little while, and then walked back to my house. And when I got back, I was probably the most exhausted I've ever been in my entire life. It was beautiful, but you know when you're too exhausted and you can't sleep because you're like a child that's overtired.
Yeah,
so I was like,
wired.
yeah, exactly. So I sort of collapsed. And I did get the impression that I was being watched in bed. I had this really sinister impression that I was being watched in bed. And at the time, I thought it was maybe something that would follow me back from here. But the other times that I've been here loads of times since then, and I've not got that impression. Probably just some guy and his stuff, isn't it? Some rich guy, some guy landowner or chieftain of some kind, whatever they. Did they own land? They didn't own land back in the Bronze Age, did they?
They had their realm or their,
Yeah.
you know, their I mean, I suppose they probably owned land. I mean, people would trade cattle and things like that.
Yeah. So he must have been someone significant to have his own burial mound, mustn't he? So
yeah,
especially of a specific type. So
could be a chieftain or a king of some sort, or a rich person, a jarl, a duke.
And in a way, it's cool that it's not been marked, because if it was marked, you'd have lots of people arguing it. It's just this cool little thing that's like sitting amongst.
Yeah. Could be a whole bunch of people. It could be.
Yeah, it could have been a communal thing, couldn't it?
I think a community or a unit of some sort.
There's the other place of significance up on Cannock Chase. At the other side of Cannock Chase is a place called Castle Ring, and that's got all sorts of folklore and ghost stories about it. But the interesting thing about that has been excavated, and that was Iron Age hill fort. And so obviously originally there were walls around it. You can walk around. It's much bigger than this. It's huge, and you can walk around the perimeter of the walls. But when they excavated it, they said that there was no evidence of any building inside, but there was evidence of agriculture inside, which I think was fascinating. So you've got like a hill with a wall around the top of it, and they're cultivating something in the middle, which makes you think, what was that? That was so important they were cultivating on there. But you know, it's difficult to put yourself in that mindset. It doesn't need. I was thinking maybe it's some sort of, I don't know, hallucinogenic, some wacky mushrooms that were growing there or something. But it could have just been some valuable crop that wasn't easy to grow, or you know, who knows. Yeah. But I thought that was interesting because they were like, it was agriculture that was being done inside. There was no building inside, so strange.
It could have just been something to hold seeds.
Yeah. Because it was sort of a receptacle of wealth.
Yeah.
You know, where you keep all your. Because I think in the Iron Age times they were still migratory people, weren't they? They were still nomadic. So maybe that's where you kept all your stuff safe while you were off elsewhere.
Yeah, you'd have to hide your valuables, though, if you were going to go hunt for a week or two.
Yeah. So maybe you had a couple of guys guarding it, and then it was all in the one place. But But yeah, apparently there's only 60 of these in the country.
Wow.
60 sounds like a lot, but if you think about the size of the country and how many of little tummy lion burial mounds there are scattered about.
Yeah, I'm going to Avebury,
Avebury's wicked. I love Avebury.
which is, it's similar to this,
Yeah.
but it's bigger.
Have you been there before?
I don't think so.
The Avebury's so cool because it's basically it's a henge, and the village has been built inside the henge.
Okay.
The henge is so big that it encompasses a whole village,
Yeah.
which is wicked.
All right, so I just got to my hotel in Stafford, where I'm spending the night, of course, and I keep hearing about ghost stories. I'm not too freaked out about it, but maybe just a little bit. So let's see what happens tonight. This place has been around since the 1400s, so I wouldn't be surprised if there are a few ghosts. Floors are super uneven and squeaky. You can tell they've been here forever. Hello. All right. That's my room for the night. Not too bad for a 5, 6, I don't know how old hotel. But yeah, well, let's see what happens. All right, so it's after midnight and I still haven't seen any ghosts yet, so I hope we're in the clear. I will say this, you know, this hotel is from the 1400s apparently, and I think the bed is still from the 1400s too. It feels like it's made out of hay and rocks. So I hope I get a good night's sleep because I'm training legs with Chris in the morning. Stay tuned. All right, so as expected, no ghosts, but definitely was kind of creepy thinking about it, just how old this place is and the aesthetic of it. Kind of felt like somebody was watching me while I was sleeping, but then I was like, I've just seen too many movies. So anyway, time for some coffee and then the gym. All right, so that is a wrap for Stafford and the Thor's Well episode.
Thor's Cave.
I said it again. Thor's Cave episode here in Staffordshire, with my friend Chris. So thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming over.
Awesome, very special trip. We're wrapping this up in front of St. Chad's Church, which is very applicable.
Yeah.
And yeah, thank you for watching this episode of two bald, muscular men with mustaches doing cool stuff. If you haven't already, remember to like and subscribe. Helps the algorithm and the channel. And I'll see you in the next episode, where I'm going to Bristol, England. In fact, I'm driving there right now. And I'm going to be doing two things I don't typically do. And that is CrossFit and eating vegan food. Vegan CrossFit Day in Bristol. All right, guys. See you then.